Well, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to your sunset live safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have VM, the wildebeest, on camera with me this afternoon. And we just stopped on top of the dam wall at Djuma just to give you a little bit of a show that despite the smatterings of rain that we've had over the last few weeks, when you have days like this that are blazing hot at 30 degrees Celsius, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit, then you need a lot more rain than the rain that we've had at the moment. And you could see those catfish struggling around at the bottom of the dam. There's very, very little water left for them. And if you're joining us for the first time, this is a live safari. So everything that you're seeing on your screens is happening right here on Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands. And if you have any questions or you'd like to share any information with us, you can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And please forgive us, but it is baking hot on top of this dam wall at the moment. And I believe, Lynn, you sent through an update about those giraffe that were seen drinking at the dam and then moved over the dam wall. And I'm pretty sure I've spotted them for you, so let's head across in that direction, get some airflow moving over us. VM and I had a perfect spot in the shade whilst waiting for the start of the sunset safari, but it wasn't quite the perfect camera shot to get a good view of those catfish. So let's get ourselves moving, get some airflow and cool down a little bit. There we go, there's our giraffe. And very conveniently in a shade post. Duck my head out of the way. Now Lynn, you said you thought it might be the giraffe with a broken ankle that you'd seen with Brent a couple of weeks ago. There's two of them. This is the female. There is a male behind. Just stopping for a nice view of her snacking on the fresh green knobthorn leaves. And although the poor catfish are struggling a little bit, the plants definitely aren't. And it's like being in a completely different place over the last week. It's just gone so incredibly green. There she is, nibbling away. And for any new viewers, those little tufted horns on top of her head, also known as ossicones, are a clear indication that she is a female. They're thin, they're small, and they haven't been rubbed bare by fighting with other giraffe. That's what tells us it's a female. Peeking out from beside the knobthorn there. Now, as far as I know, Lynn, the one with the broken ankle was a male, unless I'm getting them confused, but I've definitely seen a male with a broken ankle around. And he is just behind her, but hidden from view at this angle. I think... Oh, oxpeckers! Look how many were sitting on her. That was easily 10 birds sitting on top of that giraffe, all picking off the various ticks and parasites on her. And this will be an ideal position for them because those birds can eat 1,000 ticks a day. And you can just imagine those ticks have been feeding on all kinds of things, including mostly the blood of this giraffe. And it makes them unbelievably salty. So for those birds to be able to move between the dam and fresh drinking water, and then back to their food source, this is a perfect place to settle on a giraffe. Now, still no sign of those two lionesses that for the last 3 or so days have been moving pretty much consistently between the dam and the buffalo carcass, which is a couple of 100 meters away. I'm going to head across there and see what's happening on that level, and see if they've made their way back or if they've moved off somewhere else, maybe even to go and join the rest of their pride. But before we do that, Let's go see if we can loop around and have a look at that male giraffe. See if it is indeed the one with the broken ankle. Oh no, it's also a female. My mistake. It was hiding behind the bushes when I first saw it. Let me just double check her. She looks fine as we go through. Looks fine to me as well, at least at sort of face value. She doesn't look to be limping at all. A little bit paler in colouring than the other one we were just looking at, and she's decided instead of the hooked thorns of the knob thorn, she's going to tackle the hooked and straight thorns of the buffalo thorn. They both have decided that that's where they want to be. And I was watching out of the corner of my eye as this female moved through. Lynn, she's definitely not limping, and the other one looks to be fine as well. But I don't know if maybe you saw them limping a little bit on the Djuma Dam camera. That could well be. I haven't seen the female on the left move yet. But just a sort of a cursory inspection of her ankles doesn't seem to show any kind of swelling or anything like that. Happily nibbling away. Those all look fine to me, although it's hard to imagine that they balance that bulk and that height on such small surface areas. Incredible to think of. She looks to me to be pretty much in perfect condition. She's got the odd skin balding patch, but that's fairly typical of most giraffe. A lot of them do acquire skin diseases fairly easily. Just look how beautiful that coat is. Each giraffe will have a unique pattern of spots. And there's those oxpeckers that we were talking about earlier, moving around her. Look how beautiful that coat is. And as I said, each one will be completely unique. Interesting point. The female on the left has 2 oxpeckers on her. The female on the right, however, has that entire flock that flew off earlier has returned once again. Now, it's not uncommon for animals of the same species to sometimes have higher tick loads. It might just be because of the flocking nature of these oxpeckers that they all just descended onto one. It might be a coincidence. I'll throw out the possibility that because she is darker, she might have more ticks because it's warmer. Obviously, darker colors create more heat, but I don't think so. I think that's a little bit far-fetched. It's probably more a coincidence than anything else. And oxpeckers are cooperative breeders, so they could all know each other very well and decide that it's good to be on the same animal and not separated from the rest of the group. A lot of them sitting around her shoulders and into her mane. It obviously seems to be a good place to have a look for ticks. Just Still looking around to see if I can see a yellow-billed oxpecker. I know they get seen occasionally on these live safaris. And they look to be such silent, peaceful creatures. But Dennis, in Wakeville, along with, I'm sure, many of the other viewers, and myself included, have seen a video of, or an audio recording rather, of giraffe humming to each other. It was recorded, I believe that recording came from a zoo. I could stand corrected. And I know that there have been a lot of articles now published, and I've spoken about it before, about the fact that there's been so much read into the behavior and the communication types of elephants, and yet so little is known about the way that giraffe communicate with each other. And I know I took a question yesterday about how giraffe communicate, and a lot of it will be visual cues. And bear in mind, of course, that giraffe, unlike elephants, although they are social, they're not social to the same extent. They don't have the same social bonds. They're quite happy to sort of move in between herds, head out on their own for a while, and then come back together. But it's still something that I haven't had a chance to fully read into, and I'm very interested, Dennis. I'm sure somebody sent me the video, so I will definitely be having a look. I think that, as beautiful as these giraffe are, I'm very curious to see what's been happening at that carcass and whether or not the two Nkuhumas have decided to move along. Now, I know that both John and Elaine pointed out that there were elephants at the Djuma Dam camera earlier, and you said that they were moving off. Well, I think that Scott has, if not located that herd, then he's certainly found some elephants to show you. So let's head across to him and come back to you a little bit later.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on board. As you got a brief glimpse there's some elephants resting in the shade, and they're not going to go anywhere. We've been sitting with them for about 15 minutes now, and finally you guys have come to join us, which is great news, and we're going to take you in for some closer looks right now. Firstly though, my name is Scott. Sorry, I'm sending Chandra on a bit of a mission here, and have been caught off guard, you could say, for my intro, so I'm doing terribly from the get-go. Anyway, let's just take a look at the elephants, and I've just seen, look at this is interesting, and I've just seen another herd running off further to the left. This is absolutely fascinating. Now, I don't know what could be causing this. And it's possibly that there's a big bull chasing these females. And what I'm gonna do is, excuse me, in the direction that I saw another portion of a herd of elephants running off in, and try and work out if it is in fact a bull. Now, interestingly, elephants can communicate infrasonically, which means through audio that's not possible for us to hear as humans, and it travels through the ground. And I'm wondering if they didn't pick up some of these infrasonic frequencies of the other elephants in distress and thought, well, let's get out of here. Because as I saw the other herd running off, they too joined in. That was absolutely awesome, and now I can see the culprit, I'm fairly certain, and he's probably going to give us a hard time now. So don't be alarmed if this elephant charges us, but it won't be the first time it's happened, and we'll just see how everything pans out. Let's just stop and take a look at him from here. Why are you giving all the ladies a hard time, mister? Hey? See how he's holding out his tail? slightly horizontally there. Well, he did temporarily. That's a sign of elephants that are slightly agitated. And what may well happen is that he may take out his rejection on us from this herd. So the ladies who weren't interested in him went running off wildly, and he was actually running after them. And I think, well, now he seems to be quite relaxed and feeding again. He hasn't paid much heed to us. Wasn't that fascinating? Well, I guess that's the beauty of being on a live safari. You do never know what's going to happen. And I just said moments before, these elephants aren't going to be going anywhere, and then all of a sudden they took off. That's when I looked up and saw some other ellies running as if their life depended on it, but it certainly didn't. They probably just wanted to get away from this bull. I think I can see some more elephants approaching us from the left, so let's see what happens. Yes, mister? Well, you can see he's certainly excited about something. But interestingly, he isn't in must, which is a sexually heightened stage that elephant bulls will come into once or twice a year for anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. And during the sexually heightened phase, they will be very mischievous, and also obviously sexually heightened, so they'll be running after females wildly. But that's not to say that even when they aren't in must, they can still do the same thing. Look at him sniffing the air. I wonder if he can't smell another female that is arriving into the scene with her calf. And as he stands still there with all four legs, he could have been possibly listening to these infrasonic frequencies. When they have all four legs planted to the ground and they stop kind of doing anything, that's a good sign that they are possibly picking up the infrasonic frequencies that are traveling through the earth and then up their feet into their body. Let's take a look here, and interestingly, there's not only elephant, I can also see a Cape buffalo in the background. So you might see a little bit of a brown blur beyond the elephants. What a magical day it is. It's very hot, and that's why I thought those elephants were going to be happy to stay in the shade for at least a few minutes longer. There you can see the buffalo in between the two elephants. And the ellies certainly are making the most of all these fresh green shoots. Imagine how delightful it must taste after having months and months of dry, tasteless food. Well, possibly not tasteless, but a lot harder to work for, to get at. But now it is the season of plenty. It's worth taking note now of how quiet the bushveld is. Hardly any birds calling. And elephants will be the main animal that can actually cope and still operates in these hot midday temperatures. Most of the other animals will be seeking refuge in the shade and not doing too much. But the elephants have got a very good cooling system, and that is their ears. And as we continue watching these elephants, keep an eye on them, and you'll notice how they flap their ears very regularly now because it is very warm. And it's not just to fan their body with air, but more importantly, it's to cool the blood which runs through their ears. There's a network of many arteries and veins which can pump liters and liters of blood through their ears every minute, and that is how they keep cool. You can also see this youngster's a little bit covered in mud. I'm guessing they had a mud bath a little bit earlier. And I mentioned earlier that this elephant bull wasn't in must, and I can tell that he's not in must because I cannot see liquid dripping from his back legs or between his back legs. That's one sure sign, as well as their temporal glands sweating or leaking out fluid. So those are two features that you can look for. Another one is that they actually often drape their trunk over their tusks, over the side of their tusks. But Monique in London would like to know, would it not have been dangerous for us to approach if he was in fact in must? And yes, to a degree, Monique, you've got to be slightly... Okay, we need to send you back to Jamie quickly. We'll be back way here waiting for you.
Look behind the concrete thingy.
Okay. Look at the leguan that we've just found, also known as a monitor lizard. I was just saying to Wildebeest that I think I saw him. Oh, I can see him. Okay, well that's the first time since VM drew my attention to him that I've seen him. It is a rock monitor, just looking at the stripes coming down his body. He's trying to creep away. Very cool. I don't know how on earth VM spotted that, but excellent work. How slowly he's trying to move. I'm going to see if I can sneak forward. I think forward might be the way to go here. Here he goes. Here we can see his body moving through. Oh, he's definitely not moving slowly because he's cold. Aren't they beautiful creatures? And the rock monitors are very much more colourful than the water monitors. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to try and scoot forward. Still there. I have reached the limits of my forward motion. There he is. Just have a look at that. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever had a monitor lizard whilst live. I have seen them a couple of times moving through. And once in a tree, sorry. Once I had a head in a tree. This is the first time I've been able to show Safari Live viewers a monitor lizard. Still quite a tiny one. They can get much bigger than this. Look at that prehistoric way that he moves. And I think he's trying to keep his movements slow so as not to attract our attention. I don't know that he's realized we've seen him. They can move incredibly fast when they want to, lightning fast. Ducking over the edge. Now, it does make me wonder what he is doing here. I've just been doing a bit of a circuit of the carcass to see what I can find. There he comes, look at that. Look at those colours. Really awesome little creatures. We get two species of monitor lizard in South Africa. One is a water monitor and one is a rock monitor, like the one that Wildebeest just spotted now. And the rock monitor has a bit more in the way of color variation, a bit more vibrant, a bit more bright. Lots of those sort of contrasting bright and dark patches and the stripes along his head. Really, really interesting little animals. And I remember going off with my grandfather as a child, and we used to go and canoe down one of the lagoons that led down to the sea, and we'd go and try and see if we could spot all of the water monitors along the edge, and we sort of sat for ages watching them, and they get so used to you and quite happy to move around you when you've been watching them for a couple of days at a time. Amazing creatures. And something that I read about them that's really interesting, and I'm sure it's been mentioned to some of the more regular viewers, but for new viewers, we get these amazing termite mounds, and the termite mounds have a way of maintaining their internal temperature to an incredible degree. They keep it at a perfectly constant, it depends, it's either 32 or to 36 degrees, depending on who you speak to or which book you read. But the Legavans have learnt this, and they utilize it. So when the season comes, they go and they dig their holes and they lay their eggs, they cover them back over, and the termites actually build back over, and it creates that perfect little incubation center for them. Really, really awesome things. And then a year later you get those hatchlings popping out because they've been incubated at the perfect temperature for them. Now that was a nice little show, and I still want to go and investigate what is happening with the carcass. So in the meantime, let's head back across to Scott and see what he's doing with these ellies, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, and well done to Wiem for spotting that awesome reptile. And I told Jamie I had a lot of interesting facts about them for you, so that's great news. Back to Monique in London's question about elephant bulls and must. They certainly can be more dangerous than regular elephant bulls, but in the same breath, a lot of the time I've seen elephant bulls that are completely relaxed with us, and thankfully we are not female elephants and therefore don't really arouse them, and they don't want to do anything with us. So even though they may be worked up and in a heightened state with a lot of testosterone pumping through their blood, they can sometimes take that out on us, but it's usually the female elephants that they're after. Oh, having said that, let's see what happens here. Hello, boy. He's just looking for some food, and that's what's brought him a bit closer towards us. His behavior since the moment we saw him has made me very relaxed with him, other than a very slight upturn of his tail, making it slightly horizontal, but ever so slightly. There's been no indicators that he's going to take out his aggression on us. But he certainly did do something to aggravate the ladies and their babies, because they were charging off in the wrong direction. But having said that, there were quite a few feeding around this general area now, and it's sadly just very thick, so you're not going to be able to get in there and show them to you. But Monique, yes, certainly it is worth taking close note of elephant bulls in case they are in must, because there is an increased chance that they will give you a little bit more aggression. And a big reason why I like to be aware of it is, especially if you have guests on the back of your vehicle, you can just warn them that he is potentially going to cause a little bit of trouble, so that they don't have a heart attack when he does. Now let's see if this doesn't spice things up a little bit. I've just seen something happening over to the left here, and it's another bull. They're both not massive or very old. But the two of them might rile one another up. Another question has just come through now from Vanessa, and she's interested to know if the bulls will ever hurt the babies in order to get to their mothers. and it's unlikely, and I haven't seen that happening before, but I guess through default they may get the odd little bump or bruise if males are persisting after the females. But it would be counterproductive if the bulls cause too much trouble with the females young, because then the mothers would want to have absolutely nothing to do with them. Wasn't that cool? The way he just put that branch into his mouth and stripped the leaves off it. Pretty Nightmare's asking if that's a scar on his rump, and I'm guessing it's that mark on his left-hand side just above his tail. And no, it just looks like a mud patch or a slightly different coloration due to mud bathing, where I think some mud's actually rubbed off. So if that was the right little line across his left rump, it's not a scar that I can see, but well spotted, Pretty Nightmare. And it is really wonderful when you do send through these little observations, because so often you guys pick up on things that we don't. Just going to reposition again and see if I can't get a slightly better view. Just not sure where to go, what to do. I'm looking around just to make sure there's no other ellies making their way towards us, which there are. There's just two though that I can see. Ginny's mentioned that it's possibly lions that cause these elephants to come rushing away. And Ginny, it is possible, but 9 times out of 10 it's the other way around. It's the lions running away from the elephants. So I don't think that is the case. And another update through from Connie saying that Cheetah Plains had or at least 4 of the Birmingham males around Djuma Dam on Cheetah Plains. That's sadly quite a way off from us, even though the name can be deceiving. Djuma Dam is not on Djuma property, but I think many years ago Djuma's property was far larger before it got sold off to other areas, which have now been renamed. But thank you very much for that update. Sadly though, it's of no real significance to us today because it is far, far away. Well, lots of ellies this afternoon. Great start. And it's wonderful how they come and go. I was actually hoping to get to the Buffelshoek waterhole to see if we could find any elephants there, but we only got about halfway before we bumped into these guys. So I'm just listening carefully to the Game Drive radio, as I thought I heard an interesting update, but it wasn't anything too serious. I just heard Dlulamiti and something eating, and that I thought it was something is eating a klulamiti, which means something is eating a giraffe, but I think it was just the giraffe were eating something. To be honest, half the time the Game Drive channel is like a language of its own. Okay, well, I think this is going to be our last view of these ellies, not the best one. And as they disappear off into the undergrowth, I can answer one more question from Cecilia, who's interested to know if the elephant's wrinkles will become less prominent as they get more food to feed on. And no, not particularly, Cecilia. They are just very wrinkly animals. So we're not going to notice a massive change over the summer months, or at least I haven't noticed one in the past. So feel free to let us know if you do notice any changes, but I doubt anything serious is going to change. What is going to change though is your guys' scenery. It's about to go from a beautiful serene elephant sighting to something quite gory, and Jamie has returned to the smelly buffalo carcass, which is probably 5 or 6 days old now. It's covered in maggots, so if you've got a plate of food in front of you or you're a little bit squirmish, I would suggest either closing your eyes or thinking of something else to do for the next couple of minutes. On the same breath though, it is really, really interesting. It is a whole world of life going on in there. It's a hive of activity, and there are possibly millions of maggots doing their job. So it's interesting, but not the prettiest of scenes. You can let me know what you think when you jump back on with us a little bit later. Hopefully we'll be at Buffelshoek Dam to wash you guys off by the time you get back.
Welcome back. And yes, indeed, we do have millions of maggots currently performing their job. It is very gross to see, but it's part of nature, and it is so vital in getting rid of these carcasses as quickly as possible so that you don't get any diseases spreading around them. And so far, the maggots seem to be the only things doing their job, although the legs are pulled out and scattered away, and the jawbone appears to have gone walkabout. I mean, it looks so crawly in there, you could quite easily imagine it moved about on its own. But I'm sure it's around here somewhere. I'm very, very surprised to get here. First of all, there's no lionesses. I think even they've decided that this is just a little bit too gross for them, and a little bit too maggot infested. There's also no vultures and no hyenas as far as I can see, no sign of them. I think maybe the vultures have been at it and they've been responsible for picking clean some of the bones around the end. But honestly, I'm very surprised not to see more. And I wonder what it is that's led them off to greener pastures, so to speak. Maybe there's something a little bit fresher to eat. Now I must say that, in my opinion, I think the smell has improved drastically. It's really not too bad at all. I mean, it's still a little bit gross, but I'm definitely not suffering in the same way that I was before. It's it's got that older carcass smell. It's much more bearable. But those maggots are doing an incredible job of cleaning away all of this rotting meat to make sure that disease doesn't spread. Now, when I said to Scott this afternoon that I was going to head back to the carcass, he suggested that on one condition I had to rename, or at least give a name to at least half of the maggots. But I think it's a little bit tricky to come up with 500,000 names right on the spot. So I'm going to assume he had his tongue in his cheek the whole time, and maybe not go about naming each individual maggot. But how phenomenal is it? And the regular viewers will know. I mean, we saw this buffalo pretty much from start till the point that it's at now. And that was about 4 days ago. And the amount that these maggots have just grown and seemingly multiplied, although of course they haven't, those eggs were there and busy hatching while we were watching, is quite simply mind-boggling. It's like a teeming little ecosystem of life in there. It really is quite incredible to see. I have heard it described as a waterfall of maggots, and they are just tumbling off each other. There's so many of them. But all part of the way that life has to go around here. And I took them. I was actually going to tell you that this came from the buffalo, but really there's no way I'm going to get away with that. But if you don't mind, please forgive me for this. We're going to drive 10 meters that way so that we're a little bit less in the wind path from that carcass. And then we can chat a little bit about the spine that I've got here. Something that I picked up on my travels. Now it's interesting to note that leguvan that we were looking at earlier, the rock monitor lizard, was right next to the carcass. We were actually quite close. We just had stopped to have a look at it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he'd come to investigate and possibly even grabbed a snack from the carcass. I mean, it's a little bit gross for us to think about, but of course they don't think that way. And any food is good food. Oh, I appear to be losing a vertebra. Oh, we've lost it. Okay, stay there. And just while we are vacating the premises of the rather smelly carcass, Joe, we were talking a little bit about that leguvan or the rock monitor, and Joe, who comes all the way from Wales, would like to know if those rock monitors are possible prey for other animals, and yes, they absolutely are. Anything from bigger rock monitors to birds of prey such as secretary birds or one of the big raptors could easily take them down. And of course they're at their most vulnerable when they've just hatched and they're tiny, tiny little creatures. And then it becomes a lot more, the world is a very risky place. And I'm not sure what the infant mortality is, but I'm assuming it's really, really quite high. I think we're sort of safely out of the worst of the wind. So I'm going to stop here for now and we can have a look at this incredible vertebral column and spine that we picked up. So regular viewers will know that the site of the buffalo carcass also contained the older and more bleached bones of a waterbuck kill. I'm not sure who killed the waterbuck. It might have been lions, I'm not too sure. Definitely happened long before my time at WildEarth, as far as I know. But the awesome thing is this entire vertebral column is still completely attached together, right up until the axis joint over here and all the way down. I'm assuming it belongs to the waterbuck. There is a waterbuck skull there. Now it has, with age, become very stiff, so unfortunately I can't manipulate it in the way that it would have. But how fascinating is this whole structure? I'm almost tempted to take it home and have a proper look at it. But the way that everything links together, it's one of my favorite things to look at. I mean, just look at these perfectly aligned joints and where they slide away. Nikki, who's sitting in the director's chair at FC this afternoon, has begged me to please do, so that we can have a look at it. But really quite amazing. Perfectly formed joints, along with all of those muscle attachment points. It's been a little bit chewed by most likely hyena. You can even see bits of bone marrow. And if I turn it this way around, it's sort of dried in this curved shape. But it really is so cool. We can see just the last little bits of connective tissue that haven't rotted away. And that's how incredibly strong they are. Look at all of those perfect ridges and little tiny holes for all the nerve pathways that branch off. And you know all those reflex arcs that you read about, where a stimulus from somewhere on your body doesn't have to pass through the brain. It can go straight through the spinal cord and then back to the muscles that control movement. This is where they all take place, all of these little reflex arc holes. If I just turn it ever so slightly here, you can see the rings of the vertebra as well. Awesome, awesome stuff to see. And one day soon, that is what's going to become of our buffalo. Amazing stuff. Now, our lionesses have disappeared or fled the scene of the smelly carcass, and I'm really keen to go and see if I can work out which direction they've gone. And I'm hoping that they're moving south towards the rest of the pride. I might return this particular vertebra. It's kind of loose. Might return that back to the ground. There we go. I'm hoping that those lionesses have started to move south. Maybe we can catch up with them somewhere around there. I'm going to come back to this carcass unless something obviously intervenes. You just never know on a live safari. But my plan is to come back here this evening and see if the hyenas come around and see what's happening. In the meantime, as I make my way out, let's head across to Scott, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, can you believe how lucky that timing was? As soon as we got the update that Jamie was showing you the vertebra of a waterbuck, we stumbled upon some. And you can see that when they are not just a skeleton, they've got a very shaggy coat as well as very prominent white rings on their bottom. Some say it's a target for lions, but I tend to disagree. That's more of a joke than anything else. One myth though regarding waterbuck and lions is that some people believe that because of the waterbuck's terrible odor, they're a very pungent antelope and they've got prominent scent glands that does give them a very powerful smell. And some people believe that predators prefer not to feed on them, but that's completely untrue. And considering that there were some of the Inkuhuma lioness feeding on that same buffalo you've just been at now in the early hours this morning, is testament to the fact that lions will feed on just about any meat, even if it's decaying and rotting. I wonder what they can see up ahead there. They're looking quite intently, and look at the way they're wiggling their nostrils. It's a sign of kind of discomfort. I wonder if there's something that they know about that we don't. We are very close to the Arathusa waterhole, Buffelshoek waterhole, so let's go up ahead there and see what's going on there. Going to creep forward a few meters and see what exactly they're looking at. It looks like it's at the waterhole, so possibly some other waterbuck or other animals are coming down to drink there. Oh, I forgot my sunglasses on. Not a good debut for me trying out wearing sunglasses. The sun is incredibly bright, and I thought, let me try and wear sunglasses between shifts. People have there. I've just seen a game drive vehicle off-road here. It's Aubrey. What has he seen up there? So that's what the waterbuck we're looking at. I just need to wait for a little gap on the radio to see if I can find out what Aubrey has found. People are chittering and chattering on the radio, not giving me half a gap to ask Aubrey what he has found in there. I'm hoping it's a leopard. And now the next person's taken the half gap on the radio wave, so I still can't get my chance to ask Aubrey what's going on. But we'll get a moment eventually. Well, what we can look at in the meantime is the Buffelshoek waterhole. There's 2 Egyptian geese on the opposite edge to us. Aubrey, what you got in there? Sorry, I haven't copied any updates. Okay, copy. Are they mobile? Okay, copy, thanks. I'll come and join you now. I'm just on the damn wall. Okay, well, good news. Aubrey has found something of interest, so we're just gonna make our way down there. Hold on, this is a little bit steep. Oh. Oh. Surprise, surprise. 2 lioness. Now, I'm almost certain they're not the 2 lioness that have been feeding on the buffalo carcass, because their bellies aren't nearly full enough to show us that they have been feeding extensively. They don't look extremely hungry though on the same breath, but they certainly haven't been feeding on buffalo since Monday. And the fact that Aubrey did see 2 lioness at that buffalo carcass this morning means that these are 2 different lioness. And he seems to think that they are Inkahuma lioness. But from this angle, we're not going to be able to tell too much. And to be honest, even if I was parked on the other side, to me, all lioness look fairly similar to one another. But some of you guys may have a few good markings that can help us work out who these are once we reposition a little bit later. I think in this heat it's going to be a long wait till we see any action from them, but what we will do is try and find another way around and get you guys a better view from the front angle. Well done to Aubrey for finding these lion, and I wonder if he managed to spot them where he spotted them from. I'm guessing he may have spotted them from the other side of the dam from where we were, but it's still an incredible spot. So either him or his tracker Will has done a great job in helping us find these lion. And aren't we so lucky to be traversing these areas with such experienced and knowledgeable guides and trackers who help us so often to find the animals that we get to show you guys. I think we're going to try and reposition now. It's going to take a little while to get around there, but we are in no rush. It would be really wonderful if this is 2 of the Inkahuma lioness, because we are really battling to piece together the puzzle of what has happened to the Inkahuma pride. It's been a long time since we've seen the remaining 6 members all together. remaining 6 members of that pride consist of 5 lioness and 1 young male. And I can't remember when last we saw all of them together, but it was probably maybe 3 weeks ago, quite a long time. Nobody has seen Junior for probably 2 weeks now, and the last time he was seen was to the east of us and north of Arathusa in a thin little wedge of property called Sibambili. And Safari Hayes has asked a great question. She'd like to know how far away are we from the buffalo carcass. And I'd say about 1 mile as the crow flies, so not far at all. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we get to see these lions reunite with the other 2 lioness a little bit later? Unless, of course, we're wrong and this is them, but they look far too clean to be, and also not full-bellied enough to be the lioness that we have seen feeding on. Well done, Orbs. Well done, William. Did you spot them from that side? Well done. At that torchwood. Well, that's incredible how far they spotted them from. You can't really see too clearly from here, but a little bit later I'll try and point out exactly where they spotted them from. I don't think I would have. Now that we see this side of their bellies and this front view, they are actually quite full-bellied, so it could be the same 2 lioness. They've done a lot of grooming probably between now and then, but I'm not entirely sure. Nikki in the final control room seems to think it is the same 2 lioness that were on the buffalo. But I didn't see those 2 on it and didn't get really close views on it, although I did see them yesterday morning. But like I said earlier, to me they all look very similar. And Cecilia and Safari Hayes are boxing clever, and they've suggested that if we see any puncture wounds on these lioness, that would be a very sure indicator that it is the same lioness that we're feeding on the buffalo. And it does indeed look like the individual who's got its head up now does have a small puncture wound on her inner left thigh. So maybe after Aubrey saw them feeding on the carcass this morning, they came to Buffelshoek Dam for a drink as opposed to going back to the Vuyatela Dam. So it appears like, once again, I've false started and got excited thinking that these were different lioness, but it turns out that they could well be the same. Send through your thoughts and comments if you have been watching these other lioness closely as they fed on the buffalo. And if you would like to send through your thoughts and comments, you can do it very easily using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or sending an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And I'm told that the one on the left that we're looking at now is possibly the one that was seducing the Birmingham coalition and was seen mating with them, or at least they were attempting to mate with her, not very effectively. And who knows, maybe they've heard whisperings of the rest of their pride in Buffalo's Hook, which we are not far from now. We are quite close to our northern boundary. Maybe they've decided to leave that buffalo for a couple of reasons, mainly that it is beginning to decay to too much of a degree for them to feed on, and also maybe that they would like to try and reunite with the rest of their pride. And thanks very much to Carol for confirming that the injury on that inner left thigh is conclusive evidence that it is in fact the same lioness from the buffalo kill. And Terry and Larry and Deborah all agree. And thank you very much, because without your help I wouldn't have had a clue. Well, the fact that these lionesses have left that buffalo carcass, coupled with the fact that the vultures don't seem to have capitalized on that easy meal, means that hopefully tonight we will finally get to see some hyena action. If they decide to brave up and get a little bit closer into that kill, you'll probably find that the hyena are fully aware of the kill, but they are just too scared to risk running into the lions. And interestingly enough, the same thing happened with the buffalo carcass that the Birmingham boys abandoned close to the Djuma waterhole. So we've been hoping for and promising good hyena action, but they haven't come to the party. But hopefully tonight that will change. Thanks very much to Ellen for sending us through an update on the Birmingham Coalition, who are further to the east of us and also with one lioness. Not sure which lioness it is, possibly one of the Nkuhumas or possibly one of the Sticks would be my guesses in terms of the area that they've been found in. And it's good to see, or at least hear, that a lot of the lionesses are now beginning to accept the Birmingham Coalition, and hopefully there won't be any further deaths. It's not uncommon though, as soon as new coalitions come through into an area, that a few lionesses will get caught in the crossfire, but it will obviously simmer down at some point. and they'll begin to accept the new males, and the males will begin to accept them. Otherwise it wouldn't kind of make sense if all the females were killed. And let's just hope that the killing is done, and now the baby making can begin, which is the next step in the process. They're going to, and already have started mating with a few lionesses, and hopefully in 3 months from now we're going to have a surge of baby lions on the property, and hopefully another coalition won't come through and kill those babies. But there is still a chance, even though the Birmingham boys seem like for now they've acquired this territory, there's no guarantee that the Matimba males won't come back and try and reclaim their turf, or possibly another new coalition. And if that does happen, all those cubs will be eradicated and we'll have to start from scratch again. Now, as we watch both of them breathing, we can take note of an observation that Lisa's just pointed out for us. And it's quite clear that the one on the left is taking shorter, sharper breaths than the one on the right. And I couldn't agree more with you. Now, the reasons for that could be that the one on the left is slightly more in the sun, and therefore is a little bit warmer and therefore panting more intensely, or that it's actually just got more food in its belly and therefore cannot take as deeper breaths, as there's too much buffalo pushing up against the diaphragm in her stomach. So, or possibly a combination of those two things. At a glance it does look like she is slightly more full-bellied, so maybe that's the main reason. But she certainly is also not in as a shady spot as the other one. But well spotted, Lisa, and thanks for pointing that out. I don't think we have anything to worry about though. I don't think it's a sickness or anything too serious. Well, even though these two lionesses are fast asleep, full-bellied, and don't look like they're going to be doing much anytime soon, there's quite a good chance that if anything stumbles upon them coming down for a drink, that they're going to get their act together and we could see some action. There's obviously no guarantees, but it is important to remember that even though nothing's happening right now, that's not to say things couldn't change very, very quickly. So Aubrey's made his way out and Taxon's making his way in. They're the two Juma guides. And I'm just going to tell Aubrey thank you very much over the radio quickly. Okay, well the good news is Jamie has found you some other animals that she would like to show you. And don't worry, we're not going to be going anywhere. We'll be waiting right here when you get back. And enjoy what she has in store.
Welcome back, and what we have in store is a couple of really beautiful kudu, highlighted by the sun slowly setting in the west. Aren't they very pretty? This is a little one, probably maybe 6 months old or so, and perfectly independent from mom, although she'll still stick around to learn from mom's experience, but completely weaned on solid food. And there's mom, probably off to the right. Very, very pretty, highlighted in the green. Now imagine seeing this picture in black and white, and then picture the effect that those stripes would have on your vision in a way of breaking up the animal's outline. I know it's hard to do, but just try and picture it. And you can kind of imagine just how effective they might be in just ever so slightly. It's not going to hide the kudu completely from view, but just ever so slightly changing the way that they are seen by predators, and maybe where they are, or just a little bit of depth perception interference. A really beautiful image. And as I've mentioned before, they must be really loving life at the moment to have such a nice change and variation in their diet. Now, Scott and I have shown a perfect example of accidental teamwork. I was setting off to find the lionesses, and he promptly found them to the north of Buffelshoek Dam. Very entertaining. And so I've had to change my, well, not really had to, but I've changed my plan slightly. I'm checking around Gallagher's shortcut for Miss Karula to see if she's hiding out in one of the drainage lines. So far, no sign of her, but I did pick up a very, very pretty beetle to show you, hoping it's going to stick around. It's got such stunning colors. It's very difficult. I'm not sure how well you can see it. It's completely fluorescent in the light. It's got that beautiful shimmer that, oh, sorry buddy, that Cape glossy starlings have. There we go. Oh, stay there. And he decided to fly into my face earlier. And the cool thing is that you can't really work out what color it is. It's a combination of green and red and gold. No, stay there. You're going to stay there for us just a moment. Sorry, wildebeest. Not the easiest thing in the world to film. A shifting bug in different lights. But still really, really interesting. Now, I'm not sure which particular beetle this is. It does have wings, although it hasn't used them as yet. It did use them to fly into me earlier. So it definitely got wings. I love watching their little legs move. Oh, move my hat. And maybe you guys know what it is. I definitely don't, unfortunately. Oh, there he goes. Oh, and he's gone. Those wings almost look like a transparent red color. Really, really pretty little creature. So I'm glad that he's decided to relocate from our vehicle. But if you have any hints as to, or any idea as to what that might be, you can send your answers through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@wildearth.tv. and sitting, staring into the sun. It really is quite blazing hot still, even though it's almost 4:45. It's retained plenty of heat. Now, while we carry on in our mission, Impala Ram hopping away, while we carry on our search to find different and exciting things to show you, and hopefully some new things for the more regular viewers, let's head back across to Scott to see how he's doing with those lions, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can see, nothing's changed here, and I'm guessing not much will change for at least the next hour or so. So what I'm thinking of doing is leaving it up to you guys to decide what we do. We can drive around and see if we can find you anything else interesting and come back here a little bit later. Or you can get Jean-Andre and I to stay here baking in the sun, watching the sleepy lion. The decision is yours, and we wait for your command. Please send through your votes as quickly as possible to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or an email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and we can then take you elsewhere if that's what the consensus is, or hang around. Like I said earlier, there is a very small chance that something could stumble upon them and we could see some action. But if I felt strongly about that, I certainly wouldn't want to leave. So I think it might be in our best interest to come a little bit later, but that's just my opinion. Use it or don't use it. Aubrey has just found some female leopard tracks nearby, so it might be worth going into that area to lend him a hand. Wondering who it could be. Possibly Karula. Karula moves through these areas, or maybe Shiluva, a young female leopard that I've only seen once. Daughter of Inkanyeni, who spends time further north of us, mainly in Buffelshoek. Well, hello Isabella in Ohio, and very happy to hear that you are watching the afternoon safari. Isabella would like to know, are these lions mummies? And Isabella, I actually don't know the answer to that question. The one whose belly we could see earlier before she rolled over didn't look like she was a mummy. I couldn't see where her cubs would have been suckling milk in the past if she had had any. So I'm guessing she might be becoming a mommy for the first time in the next few months, because she was the one that was seen mating with the Birmingham boys. So maybe she'll have some babies soon and she'll become a mommy for the first time. And wouldn't that be nice to see some more baby lions again? The other lion, Isabella, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive the vehicle around for you right now, and we can see if we can have a closer look at her stomach and see if she maybe has had babies before. But I hope you're having a good time, Isabella. And it's so wonderful that people of all ages get to join in on this safari. For those of you who don't know Isabella, she's only 4 years old. Okay, well, now Isabella, if you take a close look at their bellies, you can't see any, although I can see one little black dot there covered in fur. So maybe the one on the right, the one that we're looking at now, has been a mommy. You can just see a very small spot. Oh, sorry, there we go. Just over there. And I think that's where the baby lions do their drinking. So she may have had some before, but I can't be certain. Oh, the fly is giving the one on the left a bit of a hard time now. Well, earlier on I mentioned that the Birmingham Coalition seem to have secured this area as their territory for now, but possibly other males may come through. And Laura and Sarah have reminded me that the Salati males were here not so long ago. Two big, beautiful males, one with a bit of a limp, but certainly beautiful big males. And they mentioned that they were maybe just passing through the area. They weren't sure for business. They didn't mean anything too serious, and they didn't want to maybe try and challenge the Birmingham boys. And I think you guys are right, but anything could change, and maybe they've just gone away to think up a game plan of how best to try and win over this territory. It would be a tough job getting rid of those 5 young males, but for now, like you guys say, it seems like they were just here on holiday and not on business. And thanks for pointing that out. I did hear a few days after we saw them for the first time here, or a couple of weeks ago at least, that they were on Buffelshoek. So they had come very far south. They'd been seen the night before in the Manyeleti, about 20 miles away, maybe 25 miles away. And the following morning they'd traveled a huge distance all the way to Buffelshoek, which is very close to us where we are now. And I thought they were coming back and they meant business, but nothing's happened that we've seen. Also, what we need to remember is, who knows, maybe they have had an encounter with the Birmingham males since we've seen them, and the Birmingham males may have taught them a lesson, and maybe that's why they haven't come back again. It's so difficult to know exactly what's going on all the time out here. This area is huge and so much happens after dark while we all cuddled up in bed. Now, lions are good at doing one thing, and that is sleeping, especially when they're full-bellied. And Monique in London would like to know just how many hours exactly a day will lions actually sleep for. And anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a day. So quite a lot of sleep time, no different to domestic cats and dogs. They all spend a lot of time sleeping, so nothing we can do about that really, and we just have to put on our patient pants and wait for some action to unfold a little bit later. They are very, very profound sleepers though. They can do it better than most animals, even in the heat of the day, full of buffalo. Well, very happy to hear that we've got some local support from just south of my hometown in a place called Margate. And Tians is watching, and he's introduced two of, I think it's his family, who actually live very close to us here. and they're loving the show as well, so happy to have you guys on board, and maybe you guys can come and visit us. It's Dirk and Letty who are watching for the first time, and Nelspruit's only about 2.5 hours away. It's a very nice town with good access to the Kruger National Park. And Tians, I think you've put a good message across here. I'm sure there's a lot of you sitting at home that haven't told enough friends about Safari Live, and I think all of you should get on the phone now and either call somebody, send an SMS, and tell them to tune in, because the more people that join in on these safaris basically means hopefully the more places we can take you to in the future. I wouldn't mind that, and I'm sure so would you. So the general consensus is a good one, and that is for us to leave. So thank you for giving us permission to move on, because I was getting a little bit bored here, to be honest. And oh, maybe we're going to be stuck here for a little bit longer. The car didn't start. Let's see if it starts this time. Woo! Lucky. Okay, ladies, we will be back to visit you a little bit later. Do enjoy your beauty sleep. So it sounds like the drone team are getting up and operational, and hopefully it won't be too long before you guys get to take a scenic flight around Djuma. I'm not too sure what their plans are, but wherever they decide to launch that drone into the sky, I'm sure you're going to enjoy some great views. To be honest, I'm quite jealous. I would love to be more involved in the drone team. It's something new and very exciting, and the cameramen are all having a wonderful time piloting the drone. That's probably all going to end quite swiftly when the first cameraman makes the mistake of crashing it, which is inevitable, I think. And they all obviously don't want to be that guy. There may be a small drop in signal as we go through this little dip, but hold on, and I'm sure things will clear up on the other side. Be back with us any moment. Don't lose hope. And we've got a surprise waiting for you when you do come back, if you do. Oh, that wasn't the surprise I was hoping for. The bird just had a poop that I believe you got to see. That was not planned and unintentional. And had it have been planned, it would have been quite well coordinated, I think, to organize a wild Sutherland stork to pull off that stunt just in the nick of time. They're incredibly pretty birds, and let's see if we can get you a few more views of them. It's actually the first time I've seen them here at the Buffelshoek Waterhole. And I think they've fished out the Vuyatela Dam where the Djuma Dam cam is. It's all quite confusing. Vuyatela Dam, Djuma Dam. Most places or animals have got two names out here. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I think basically they have fished out the smaller fish within that waterhole, and now I've come to Buffelshoek Dam where they can try and find some more bite-size prey. Look at the male's yellow wattles wobbling as he walks. The female lacks those yellow wattles and has bright yellow eyes instead, and the male has a black eye. Very large birds. If I was standing next to it, its head would probably come up to my chest. Very good. Okay. Well, too long since we've seen a snake, and on this hot weather there's a strong chance that these cold-blooded animals are going to be slithering.
Welcome back, and we have just found a herd of elephants, or at least 2 members of a herd of elephants. They're just going into the block here. Let me see if I can scoot forward and get another visual of them. They're in a nice open patch right on the junction with Sandy Patch and Boyatella main access. Okay, we'll go have a look in a moment. Liam's just spotted a possible nest site for a crowned lapwing. It's chirping at me angrily, so I'm going to drive very, very carefully so as not to in any way risk bumbling over its nest by mistake. But have a look at this adorable little Ellie. Hello, Ellie. How are you doing this afternoon? I'm sure you can hear the lapwing shouting at me furiously. Look at the way she just casually tears those leaves off that spiky acacia. It's got thorns on there that are longer than my finger. It's not a bother to her though. I wonder where the rest of the herd is. She seems to be out on the fringes. I can't hear any other elephants moving through. Hello, little one. Peekaboo. Are you going to try join mommy there? Stretching up. 1 foot in the air. Both feet in the air. Are you climbing trees now? You're not a monkey, you're an elephant. Oh, that was so cute. And even at this age, capable of half supporting some of his weight with just that trunk. How amazing is that? I think this might be our little boy that we've seen fairly regularly. Definitely a male, and it looks like that young female who has him. Oop. And you've been rolling in the mud, you two. I wonder if these are these Ellies that some of you may have picked up on the Djuma Dam camera. having a bit of a roll in the mud earlier. Plucking very delicately, not quite as tough as Mom, and certainly not quite as coordinated, but already on solid food. Although most of this little boy's diet will still be milk, with a little bit of extra leaves on the side. The baby's very beautiful, Mommy. Well done. Copying Mommy in everything, including what it is she's eating. I know, Lapwing, I know. Don't worry, I'll be careful. It's quite a delicate process when your trunk is not entirely coordinated and definitely not as tough as Mom's, so those thorns probably still hurt a little bit. And he almost seems to be plucking it leaf by leaf. Gently feeling around for what he can grab. You going to climb the tree again? No. Look at the way he's experimenting with his trunk and still very clearly not quite getting to grips with it all the time. Here we go. Leaf by leaf, not quite branch by branch as Mommy does. Hey, little one. Mommy's walking away. You're gonna get a fright. Oh, there you go. Can't help but think of being a child with my parents in a shopping centre, and you turn around, you're distracted by something, and all of a sudden your parents have started moving off. And that feeling of panic until you run up to them and catch up with them. Now, our lapwing was screeching at us a little bit earlier. I wonder where he's gone. Go back slowly, the way that I came, so I don't risk crushing any nests. This stump here. Yeah? VM says that the lapwing that was shouting at us a bit earlier was sitting close to the stump, so let me go double check very carefully first before I loop around. Make sure I'm not going to crush anything. Now lapwings have a very interesting approach to life. So they make these little hollows in the ground. That's where they lay their eggs, and they rely purely on camouflage to protect them. At least the camouflage of their eggs. Oh, that's interesting. Some exoskeletons of millipedes. I think something had a snack here.
I don't see the eggs there anywhere.
I don't see any nest anywhere. Done some serious examining, but that being said, those eggs are incredibly camouflaged when they are around. She's actually disappeared off. I'm not feeling too threatened, but there you go. Something snacked on a millipede around the log. But that would be a good place to make an egg, make a nest and lay your eggs. Just because at least you've afforded a little bit of protection by that log. Can't actually see where those lapwings went. I'm just going to double check. Oh, binoculars are caught on the piece of vertebra that we still have with us in the car. I'm just looking around. I don't see any nest. And the lapwing might have been just fussing at us because we got a little bit too close, but it's hard to tell exactly where it would be, which is why I'm driving quite carefully and quite slowly now to make sure that I don't squish any of her eggs. And I have very vivid childhood memories of lapwings dive bombing me and once actually drawing blood. They're very protective of their nests, and if they have to, they will attack anybody who is trespassing. And of course what they love to do was to make a nest by a school field in the sort of open patches there. That was the perfect place for a plover's nest or a lapwing's nest. Double check very carefully. I'm going to go back onto the road and then back towards those two lovely ellies. Get another nice view of them. They're going to move out into the open for us again very nicely. They've been terribly obliging. Oh, you're getting so brave, little one. You're so far from mommy. Gonna go catch up there. I'm gonna try and loop in front of them while we have the chance, just to get a nice view. Now this little one is terribly cute and very precious, but apparently Scott had an even tinier little baby that almost looked to be newborn on this morning's sunrise safari. Hello, Mom. Yes, hello. And Laura, you were wondering if it would be possible if we could find it. I promise you I'll keep an eye out for it. It's going to be a little bit tricky, and obviously with a baby that small, you definitely don't want to be bundu bashing through the block after it, because you're just going to upset the mother. Although this one is very, very cute. Hey, Bubba. Look at that little trunk go. It's amazing. The nice thing about elephants, of course, is that although we might not see that newborn this afternoon on the sunset safari, though I promised to keep an eye out for it, we've got so much time to have a... Ooh. Nope, that's not going to be yummy to eat. Mommy's just guiding little one. Look how relaxed she is. You can see it completely in her body language. She's totally happy with coming up to us and feeding right next to the car. I'm going to be quiet for a moment. Hello, beautiful. Yes, you are so beautiful. You can see her closing her eye against the rays of the sun. It's shining right into her eye. And you know it's something special when you're close enough to hear an elephant's breath. Thank you, big girl. You have a lovely baby. Oh, she's even managed to cake mud behind her ears. Very impressive work. There's nothing like the feeling of peace that you get from elephants being right up close and personal. Especially at this time of evening, it's somehow even more magical. They really are very special. But I promise that we will keep an eye out for little one and see if we can find it for you. And hopefully a herd will stick around over the next few days, just like this female's herd has, and we'll get to see it more than once. Apparently there's that female with the downward facing tusk, so it should be really, really easy to identify, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with them once again. And of course the nice thing about elephants as well is they don't have a strict breeding season. So if you regularly watch the live safaris, especially if you're a new viewer and you're not too sure how this all works, we do it twice a day, every day. So your chances of finding an elephant calf, fresh and newborn, increase the more that you watch. And they don't have a strict breeding season, so it can happen any time of the year. We could be showing you a brand new baby. So cute. What are you doing? Are you digging? Getting right down on his knees, or his elbows rather. He's trying to break one of the sticks like Mommy was doing, but it's proving to be very tricky. It just isn't quite working, so he's going to try with his mouth. Oop, got what he needed. Very cute. Just bear with me for one moment. The drone team, I think, is trying to get hold of me. Standing by. We're exactly on that clearing on the junction Sandy Patch main access. I've only got 2 at the moment, just one female and calf. Copy that. Look at how sweet that little one is. So much imitation and learning happening there with Mom. Now it's just the 2 of them straggling at the back here. And Grace, who comes from Dallas, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You were wondering if I think the rest of the herd is nearby. Yes, I do. Although I'm quite surprised that I haven't heard them. I have been listening intently. Still waiting to hear exactly which direction they are in. And I'm guessing that they are somewhere off in the general direction of the direction that the female's been moving in. But it is hard to tell. I'm sure they are here somewhere though. Okay, let me try and shift around before these Ellies move and try and get ahead of them once again, because that's how you have these wonderfully magic moments, is when they choose to come to you rather than you trying to advance on them. just to carry on answering your question, there's tracks going this way. And then it looks as though they might have crossed across the road. So she's on her way to join them. I'm fairly certain this is the same female and the young male calf that I've seen a couple of times on these live safaris. She has that slightly shorter left tusk, very sharp point that it comes to, and she is quite small, quite a young female. Baby sidling up to Mom to come and join once again, see what Mom's eating and to see if it's any good. Oh, there's a much better option there. And that's Mom's milk. She's after something there at the base, just using her foot to stir it around. Baby's not terribly impressed because he wants to suckle. Such a peaceful evening scene. Now, the little one that we were talking about earlier, the almost brand new little elephant calf, will be completely dependent on Mommy's milk. And because she will be so heavily lactating, I know that we've had people ask how on earth newborn calves manage to reach up to suckle from their mothers when their mothers are so tall and they can be so tiny. But she will be heavily lactating enough that he'll be able to reach, he or she. Not sure what the gender of the calf is. By the sounds of it, it's absolutely adorable, although so is this little boy. And such a character. I mean, how many times do you see an elephant calf try to climb a tree? Can't be that many. Well, a big hello to Monique, who is one of our regular viewers. You were wondering if this was the same little male that we saw the other evening when the storm was coming in, and he had a little bit of a kinky tail, the individual that we saw. And I don't think so, just because I can't see that kink in the little calf's tail, although he is a very similar age. So let's see if we can get a view of his bottom. Oh, he's going to hide away now. He knew that we were trying to have a look. I don't think so, but it could be. I didn't notice an obvious kink. This mum I've definitely seen before. There might be two young females wandering around with two young male calves. That, of course, is more than possible. Let's try and shift forward, although that's very pretty. She's going to come out into the clearing. We'll just give her a moment to do so on her own. This is such beautiful light. And somehow their incredible looks are even more highlighted when it's so green around them. They just look so perfectly at peace. Imagine, this is a conversation I had earlier today. Imagine walking around and there's just food constantly. You just have to reach out your arm, or in this case trunk, and there's something different to eat, and you can decide what you take your pick, because there is just so much to choose from. Must be an amazing experience. Then of course you need to eat all day if you wanted to maintain the bulk of an elephant. Still quite a cool thought. What's so special about this moment, and I'm in complete agreement with Vicky, who is watching from New Mexico, what's so nice about this particular sighting is we've just got these two ellies nice and out and in the open, and we can really sit and focus on them. I'm going to shuffle forward, although I think baby's going to be following on mom soon. Hello, little one. I'm going to stop here so you can feel fine. That tail looks fine to me. It doesn't look too kinky, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think so, though. Oh. Over 6 months old, but still has the odd moment of slight uncoordination with his feet. Goes off to join mom. Okay, let's scoot a little bit further forward. This mother is very, very obliging. She's been so nice and relaxed and out in the open. It's very kind of her. The rest of the herd. Ah, I thought I heard elephants there. Still can't see them though. Liam's seeing things today that I have not spotted yet. Forward. There we go. I see him. Took me long enough. Well done, Liam. Well spotted. And for those of you who were watching the... Oh, I can't remember. Was it sunrise? It was the sunrise safari. A couple of days ago, we had 2 young bulls walking across this beautiful open green clearing. Even with a space of a couple of days, it's phenomenal how incredibly vibrant, almost lime green in places it's looking. It really is quite astounding. The other thing I saw in this area for the first time today, and I was actually driving back from the gate, was a paradise flycatcher, and that's a first for me for this season. It means that we'll be seeing them more regularly on drive. Here's our female, still quite happy where she is. It seems as though Jackie's school class is watching at the moment. And Hayden, I believe that you would like to know whether or not an elephant has any bones in its trunk. And it doesn't actually. It's an incredible structure made up purely of muscles. And they say that an elephant has between 50 to 100,000 different muscles within it. Hello. Yes, we're talking about your nose. Oh, doesn't like that. And the muscles stretch longitudinally and then across, so they stretch lengthways, then across, and then also a combination of cross bands around the trunk that allow it to almost act like an accordion, so it can expand and contract as however it wants to. And you can see how incredible that range of motion is. They can tuck it in, they can tip it that way, they can move it around, and they can almost pull it in and pull it out like a concertina. Stretch it all the way forward and then pull it all the way back. The most amazing instrument. Really incredible to see. You hear the Senegal lapwings also chirping away in the distance. Let's see what's happening from the air. The drone is up and about, and will give you a really nice idea as to where the rest of the herd is. And of course I will still be narrating, so I'll be trying to figure out exactly what it is you're seeing. So with no further ado, let's head up to the drone and I will be with you in just a few moments. You can see our Ellie herd. You can watch the sunset slowly setting, and then of course VM and myself giving you a big wave. Hello. And a really beautiful horizon and what promises to be a truly stunning sunset. And I'm sure that from the air you can pick out those dark blobs that are the elephants. And look at the way that the Sabi Sands stretches out so far, a perfect undisturbed natural place for these animals to roam around in. It really is incredible, and surely you must be noticing even from the first time the drone went up until now how vastly different the color is looking as we slowly head towards some of the elephants who have been moving about behind me and crossing behind me. I think this is quite a big herd. It could even be the herd that has the really tiny baby, so keep your eyes peeled. See, now when we describe the area and the open area to you and where the elephants are in relation to each other, now you can get a really awesome bird's eye perspective on what they're up to. Just to let you know, it is Andrew who is flying the drone this afternoon. He is acting as the pilot. Very, very pretty. I'm doing a full loop around the area that we're in. Okay. Well, from the drone looking out at the sun to us looking out at the sun, I do hope you enjoyed that little aerial trip around the side of this elephant herd. It's proving to be the most beautiful evening. Goodbye, drone. It's going to race back to Andrew for a battery change, I imagine. But how amazing is that we get to do this kind of thing and give you a whole different perspective on the way that we're experiencing this sighting. Our Ellies have moved across, so the area where you saw most of the elephants moving is that area to the right of me, in quite thick guarri bushes at the back. So none of them really moved across the clearing. And then our special female is just a little bit ahead of us. So I'm going to scoot forward ahead. But such exciting times lie ahead. And you can see, or at least maybe you couldn't see from your position, but I could certainly see from mine, that the elephants were perfectly relaxed. They were just on a mission moving through the area, but they're still all around us, quite contentedly just moving from tree to tree to feed. We've caught up with our beautiful girl. She hasn't gone too far, but she has moved into a slightly thicker bush. Oh, hello. Hello, sweetie. Oh, you're so brave. Oh, you're so brave. You're gonna get a fright and run back to Mom. Look how brave you are. You can see the little pieces of leaves on his back and his head. Hello. What a courageous little elephant you are. Where are you going to go now? You're running away, but your mommy's that way. Whoopsie. Oh, oops, sorry. Let me duck my head down. Where are you going to go? Oh. What's up, little ones? Mom's still perfectly relaxed feeding on the other side, but this little one decided to come and have a venture across the road without Mom. There's even a little teenager at the back who's thinking about coming to give us a little bit of a show. Look at that trunk in the air. Hello. I love them when they're this age. Now don't charge the baby, because then Mommy's going to come and we're between Mommy now. Don't do that, please. All kinds of dynamics happening here. very common for the babies to play. Hello, Mom. The baby's just here, don't worry. Hello, yes. Come collect your baby. He's being naughty. He's being cheeky. You can see she is not fazed at all. Not even going to go and see where he's gone. She's going to move right past him and off to a different tree. Almost looks like a young anna tree, although I'd be very surprised to see one here. Probably just a slightly different coloured knobthorn. Oh, whole mouthful of that. In it goes. Crunch. You hear that ripping sound as she strips the leaves. Oh, but these elephants are so wonderful. Here's little one. Very distracted this afternoon, up to all kinds of explorations. One of the reasons why elephants are one of my absolute favourites to sit and watch. There's always something going on with elephants. There's always one of them up to something. And it's usually the babies. They are so hugely entertaining. For a young mom, she is very relaxed. Usually the young moms are quite highly strung and quite tense and quite worried about their babies. But she's very chilled. Completely relaxed with us. Bottoms disappearing off into the block. Too cute. How wonderful was that little baby just making his way across the road without Mom being very, very brave. But that whole ears open, trunk up posture is very common, both with elephants that are trying to intimidate you, but also elephants that are a bit inquisitive and want to come and see what you are and what you're up to. And give him a few years and I imagine he'll be putting on a very similar show to the famous Mr. Wrinklybottom, who I have yet to encounter, but I've heard many stories about his character. I have a feeling this little baby's also going to be quite the character as well. So brave coming to investigate like that. And doing trunk pull-ups to help climb a tree. Me, you are so cheeky. Coming to shake his head once again. And he's not stressed, he's just playful. And I think sometimes following behind a herd and eating is a little bit boring. Especially when it's much easier to just grab a snack from Mom. There we go, some nice new shoots of grass. And he's very definitely a little boy. I definitely think this might be the next Mr. Wrinklybottom, although he doesn't have a hugely wrinkly bottom, or no more so than I've noticed on other elephants. I don't know, I put it to you guys what you think we should call this little character. I'm sure we can think of some inventive names. Because he certainly needs a name for a personality like that. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Even if he does move out of this area, it's still quite fun to think of little characterizations for him. And his mom, because she's been so obliging. Now these ellies are going to, at some point soon, disappear off into this block. And I'm not going to go crashing after them to follow them. Although we have spent such a magical time with them. Let me shift forward a fraction. We've already got a name apparently that came through before I even suggested trying to name it. And that came from Deborah, who suggested that we name him Kiwi because he's very fuzzy, which I think is absolutely adorable. And very, very sweet. He's going to disappear off into the block. I'm going to shuffle forward ever so slightly and then stop. Hello, my friend. Obviously can't go too much further given the eddy roadblock. It's hugely important to respect their personal space. I do think that in a few moments or so, our eddies are going to disappear into a very thick block that's off to my right. So let's try and enjoy as much time as we can with them before they do. We've still got this little one who's nicely visible. But once they do disappear, then I'm not going to be trying to follow them. First of all, it's getting dark, and second of all, it is a monkey orange thicket in there. So all I'm going to do is give them a fright. Look at all that mud. Somebody's been having a ball. I was trying to work out why I smelled carcass, and I've just remembered that I've got an entire vertebral column sitting next to me. No wonder. I'm just going to shuffle forward a little bit. Our little baby has disappeared off from view. Oh, okay, buddy. Off you go. I love that little run of theirs whenever they hit some kind of downward slope. And they just do a sort of half trot to try and keep pace with things. Just to give you an idea, if we have a look across to our right, you can see how our ellies are slowly disappearing off. You can see how thick that block is. And I'm sure you regular viewers have experienced our moments driving off-road through Monkey Orange. It's very, very noisy. Off he goes, slowly but surely. I'm going to shuffle forward so we can get one last view of this individual, but I think that she's going to disappear as well. But what a special way to spend an afternoon than with these elephants. And we even got to see them from the air. Oh, there's some exciting stuff happening with Scott and his lions, so let's head across there. I'll catch up with you later.
Well, you'll notice a massive change in behavior from these two lionesses. And in the background, you'll notice a whole herd of buffalo bulls coming to drink. What is going to happen next? Awesome stuff. And great prospects to see some action. Now, we're not certain whether these two lionesses managed to bring down the buffalo bull that they were feeding on, or whether it died of natural causes. it will be a serious accomplishment for two lionesses to bring one of these boys down. And not only bring them down, but be able to ward off the attack from the other bulls that will in all likelihood regroup and return to try and rescue one of their mates if that does indeed happen. So very exciting prospects lie ahead here. But for now we just have to sit and wait patiently and see what happens next. All of these buffaloes seem to be in good health, which will make things more complicated for the lioness. And they ran down into the water very excitedly. It's a dead still evening and I can't feel which way the wind is moving in. But there is a chance that these buffaloes will catch wind of the lion and run off. There's already one bull that you can see looking in this direction. And the lioness drank at the waterhole quite close to where those buffalo are now, so they can possibly even smell a vague scent of lion already. Well, one lioness's intentions are quite clear. And she's not interested. But that could change. And the fact that they have been feeding on buffalo for 5 days doesn't mean that they won't be happy to continue feeding on one tonight. That's for certain. Now, in the sighting that I had with these two lionesses yesterday morning, one lioness was evidently far more in tune with hunting than the other, and we got to see that behavior as some Inyala walked past the small waterhole in front of the Vuyatela Lodge. One was crouched and tucked away perfectly behind some cover, some small boulders that line the waterhole, whereas the other one was lying out in the open, completely disinterested. And just like humans, lions have also got different traits and qualities. Some may be better hunters than others, some may be better mothers than others. And this is a good lesson for all of us. If we had have arrived at this waterhole now and saw these buffalo drinking, we wouldn't assume that there were lion anywhere nearby. And quite often I mention that simply because the prey species are relaxed, it doesn't mean that there aren't predators lurking nearby. Well, these yawns are a good sign. She's trying to get oxygen into her body. Maybe she's going to get up and make a move. If she does, I'm hoping the other lioness, who doesn't seem as interested, will follow suit. Another thing to bear in mind is that when the Nkuhuma Pride was still 7 or 8 members strong, with a young male to help them in the buffalo hunting, they still got shown up on many occasions. It's not an easy job bringing down these big Cape buffalo. They're probably one of the lion's greatest opponents to try and bring down. Come on, girls. prove me wrong. On the topic of formidable opponents in terms of their prey species, Cindy in Carolina would like to know if lions will ever try and take down rhino. And yes, they certainly will, but it's mainly the larger coalitions of males that will do that. And in some cases there's some very large lions, large prides of lions rather, of 30 plus animals that have even specialized in hunting elephant, and not just baby elephant, quite large adult elephants. So anything is possible out here, but it will depend on each pride and their specific habits. And certain prides will, depending on the area, specialize in hunting certain prey. Even giraffe in some area. There's a pride of lion that I got to know called the mountain pride on the eastern border of the Kruger National Park, probably about 80 kilometers, 50 miles to the east of us as the crow flies. And they were at that stage 20 plus strong. Now there's 40 of them, mainly cubs, and the large size of their pride combined with the large numbers of giraffe in that area caused them to specialize in hunting giraffe. Speaking of which, I'm not sure, some of you may have seen a picture going around of a large male lion from what is called the Charleston Coalition. We don't get to see them, but further south in the Sabi Sands is where they reign. And one of the males, in all likelihood, got his bottom right canine kicked out completely by hunting giraffe. That's what they think, as they did have a giraffe kull, or was seen chasing giraffe, and now this poor male has got his whole bottom right canine dangling from the side of his mouth. The whole root is exposed. So risky business hunting large prey. Speaking of large prides of lion or large coalitions, Christine in North Carolina is interested to know a little bit more information on a coalition of 7 to 9 male lions. What's going to happen here? Are these girls ready for action? Looks like they could be. And that is in fact true. I'm told that there's 9 of them, Christine. They go by the name of the skybed males. How on earth they got that name, I don't know. And I haven't ever actually seen any pictures of them or heard too many stories, but they are probably 10 to 20 miles north of us in the Manyaleti Reserve. And there's a strong chance that they will disband into 2 different coalitions, or they'll stay together, acquire a very large territory, and then split up into even smaller groups to help monitor and patrol a very large territory. And who knows, maybe they'll come further south into the Sabi Sands to give us a visit. But for now, I don't think that is going to happen. Come on, ladies, get your act together. There's some big buffalo bulls amongst that herd. And what would be better suited to these lionesses, a lone buffalo bull, or 1 or 2 of them at least. But this many means there's so many reinforcements to come back and try and help chase off the lion once they do manage to bring down their prey. And I've seen countless sightings of lions bringing down buffalo that would be doomed if it wasn't for the help of the fellow herd members coming back and chasing the lion off. Last station, go again. Okay, well, Jamie's got an interesting sighting for you, so we're going to shoot you across to her quickly, and you'll be back with us in a moment.
Welcome back. And we're going to keep our movements very slow. And I'm going to keep my voice down because it's not every day that you get to see a scrub hare during the day. Well, I mean, it's nearly dark, but we still don't need to shine any lights on it. And I think he thinks that we haven't seen him, adopting the typical scrub hare, ears down, flat to the ground, trying to hide. Although, judging by his breathing, he's not terribly impressed with our presence, but how cool is this? Look at that amazing colouring. How often do you get to see them out during the day like this? When we see them at night, we just drive past them so we don't blind them and frighten them with our lights. But you can see perfectly now the detail, the velvety looking ears. You almost want to go and cuddle him. Perfect example of a scrub hare. He is right next to our car. I mean, but right next to our car. He was tucked away in the erosion line, just on Impala Road, and VM once again was responsible for spotting him. I would never have known he was there. Look how close he is. In this little erosion tract next to the road. He's probably come out a little bit early from his hiding place during the day. Oh, oops. Here we go, look at the red behind the ears. Those beautiful ears. Up, bounce, bounce. Oh, oopsie. Oh, shame. Got his foot caught in a branch, but he's free now. There you go. That's a much more comfortable distance, isn't it, Mr. Hare? Or Mrs. Hare? Very hard to tell. He's going to settle back down there and wait for the fall of night once it starts to get dark. And then he can move about freely and eat the grass. And, as I'm sure many of our regular viewers know, not only does he eat the grass, he then partially digests it, defecates it out, and then eats it once again. It's known as coprophagy. And it's because they have fairly ineffective digestive systems, and they need a sort of a second time around, so to speak, to really digest that grass properly. And that's why when we pick up their dung, takes on that whitish color, that very pale color, as opposed to very similar in size and shape to an antelope dung, but completely different color and consistency. That was really special. How often do we get to see that? Absolutely awesome. And it's looking to be the most beautiful evening. The crickets are out in full force. I'm hearing the cicadas as well. And it's just the most perfect summer's night. It really is so beautiful. It's perfectly dead still. There's not a breath of wind. And it really is quite magical out here. Anyway, whilst you've been with Scott and the lions, we have been trundling the western edge of Djuma to see what we can see. Still keeping an eye out for tracks of things like leopards and lions, but also just taking a moment to stop and enjoy the tiny little things like that wonderful scrub hare. So well done to the wildebeest, and a big thank you for spotting that. Whilst we continue on our journey, let's head back across to Scott and his lions, and we'll see what else we can find to show you in terms of the wondrous and exciting things there are out here.
Welcome back, everyone. And not much has changed here, and the lioness have decided to lie back down. The buffalo are still in the general area, so there are still some lurking around on the water's edge, so it's not over yet. We may still see some action, and as we speak, the lioness have pricked up their ears and are looking intently in their direction. Well, it's great that you got to see some different animals today, the Nile monitor lizard as well as the scrub hare, all thanks to VM, the cameraman.
Hey, what's happening, man?
There you can see a bit of movement of some of the remaining buffalo. They are still here. And maybe what these lionesses are doing are actually a very clever move and waiting for the cover of darkness before they pursue these buffalo. It's a lot easier for them to create panic and confusion when they can see very well and their prey cannot. Or maybe they're just not willing to take the risk. Both of them were bearing small injuries that looked like puncture wounds. So maybe when they did take down their last buffalo, they got taught a bit of a lesson. And as those buffalo came in to drink, one of my friends, Matty, age 9, started wondering if the lions would potentially run into the water after the buffalo to try and catch them. And in this area, it's not likely, Matty. The lions here in the Sabi Sands don't like getting their paws wet. But in some parts of Africa and Botswana, where there's a lot of water, there they will be happy to hunt and swim through water. So it depends on where you are. And if you want to watch a video of lions hunting buffalo, where the buffalo retreated into the water and the lions tried to follow it, you can ask somebody to check out Battle at Singita on YouTube, and that was a sighting that I had with a pride of lion called the Castleton Pride. Oh, the lion just chased a little plover there. And let's reposition the vehicle quickly to see what's going on. And actually what happened in that sighting, Matty, is the buffalo went into the water because it knew it would be safe there. And some of the lion went into the water just up to their kind of elbows. And because it's easier for the buffalo to move through the water because they're more powerful and bigger than the lion, it managed to run up to the one lion that came into the water, and he tossed her into the air and she went flying about 3 somersaults before she landed again, and then ran out quickly. So if any of you would like to watch an interesting video of a lion getting flung into the sky by a buffalo, check out Battle at Singita. Back in my early days of guiding, you'll get to see me in action. And if you don't know how to spell Singita, it's S-I-N-G-I-T-A. Oh, this is going to be beautiful. We're going to get some great views of this lioness drinking. Just want to try and get Jean-Ray into a good spot. I don't know if I'm doing any good here, but let's see how this works. Beautiful. What I'm actually going to do quickly, because they might drink for quite a while, is go around all the way onto the other side of them, because you don't have the best view of them from here. Oh, I can smell their poop, which is very, very smelly. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful. I hope a lot of you are firing away your screenshots. And we can thank Andrew for beautifully lighting up these lion from the side. If we listen carefully, you may even be able to hear them lapping up the water. How cool is that? You can actually hear them drinking. And Matty, this is about as wet as life. Even their toes aren't even close to the water. No sign of the buffalo anymore.
Welcome back. And just a few moments ago I had a very exciting moment with what I thought was some small nocturnal creature. It was a small creature, it turned out to be a duiker lying down flat on the ground. It's amazing how deceptive they can be. Anyway, we do apologize for the interruption in Scott's signal. We are currently traversing right up close to the repeater where Eugene spends a great deal of his day. And I'm actually checking around to see if I can spot that honey badger I saw here once. But I've seen his tracks up and down this road all the time. Checking really carefully, nice and low to the ground. Of course, the biggest giveaway is that perfect eye shine. Crickets. One of my favorite times to be out in the bush. lots and lots of noisy cicadas at the moment. So for new viewers who want a little bit of a lesson in spotlighting, essentially all this light does is at the back of every animal's eye there is a reflective layer that is known as the tapetum lucidum, and that layer is there to assist them seeing in the dark. So it bounces the light, any kind of ambient light back, and it just magnifies it and allows them to see a little bit better in the darkest of night. Now for the herbivores, or for the daytime animals, that layer is not as well developed because they don't need to use it during the day, and then they're generally asleep and not active at night. But for the nocturnal animals, when you catch their eye shine, it comes almost like those hazard stickers or those hazard jackets that people wear, and it shines really, really brightly, and that's what we're looking for at the moment. Reflection of the daytime's animals are much greener and much less distinct. Now it seems as though, whilst we continue our search for the mysterious nocturnal animals of Djuma, that Scott is back up online, so let's head across to him with those gorgeous lionesses, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And the ladies are taking some time to rest on the cool sand after quenching their thirst. It's a bit tricky after dark to show you both line because we cannot rely on the other vehicles for shining the spotlight, because as soon as Jean-Andre sees them shining on the other lioness and pans across there, there's a strong likelihood that the torch will fade off and then all you'll see is pitch darkness. So we're just going to stick with the one for now, but the other one is lying up just above her on the bank. Let me show you the other one quickly. There she is up there. It is such a beautiful still evening. The blacksmith lapwing is calling chip 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 chip, and that's how it gets its name, after a sound that a blacksmith would make working on his anvil. Dip 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 dip, as he bangs away on his metalworks. Well, Paul was interested that the lioness waited for darkness to come and drink, and is interested to know how they communicated that to one another. And it certainly is interesting stuff, Paul, the communication between lion when doing things like just going for a drink or when hunting. And how I like to relate it to something that we can think about is kind of like being around family or playing in a sports team with teammates that you get used to, and you begin to understand their likely moves or decisions. And even without communicating, you can just look at a family member or a sports mate and kind of understand what their next move might be. And because they do live day in, day out with one another, forming these incredible bonds, I think that's one of the large factors of how they communicate. It's It's certainly remarkable, Paul. They did have a drink early on, possibly when they arrived here. Sometime during the course of the day, we did see their pug marks in the sand. I can show you this lapwing calling if you guys are interested, or there we go. It's chirping away over there. Oh, camera shy. Don't worry. Oh no, possibly it was running after a little insect. There it goes, singing away. Great. I'll leave it in peace now and go back to the lion. Maybe it wasn't that one that was calling, maybe it was its mate that I can't see. Oh, sorry, Jean-Ray. Got distracted there for a moment and left Jean-Ray panning around in the darkness. Well done to all of you that took some beautiful screenshots this evening. I'm told they are streaming through. And Jean-Ray did remark just after we saw the lion drinking, before we lost signal, that it would have made for some beautiful photos. So glad that some of you got to snap some off. Now you can hear one of my favorite bird calls, the fiery-necked nitro. Now my whistle is a terrible example of the call, but listen carefully. That's my other rendition, also not very pretty. Well, as we wait patiently with these lioness, the good news is Jamie is out in search of some nocturnal critters, so I think it'll be a great opportunity for you to jump on board for a bit of night drive action, and we'll stay with the lion to see if they don't change their mind and start doing something.
Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me on our search for the various critters that inhabit the night here on Djuma in the Sabi Sands. Let's see what we can find you. Looking very, very intently for that most bright red, very intense eye shine that's so characteristic of a bush baby. Our bush baby, for those joining us for the first time, is our little tiniest primate, small little nocturnal fluffy creature, absolutely adorable to watch and very highly entertaining, but incredible to see the way that it moves. I've spotted one, but I think it's going to be very tricky to get. Sure, a bit far away, I think. You see the eye shine from where you are, BM? Negative. Let me try to scoot forward a little bit. There it is, it just shone there. I think he's going to hide away from us. I can see the eye shine every now and again. Unfortunately, the nature of bush babies is that they're so agile and quick. If I was to try and drive off-road to go and find it for you, They just bounce away, and watching them bounce is astounding. I've seen them on the road before, and for a tiny little critter that's only about the size of my hand, they're unbelievably agile, and they jump. They could easily jump up into my head, and I'm about 5'7". So that's no small feat for a tiny little creature. It's like they're built with springs in them. The spotlight's starting to get warm, which is wonderful, as Liam says. It's wonderful in winter, but it's still unbelievably warm. And as I said, this is for sure my favorite time, or one of my favorite times, to be out in the bush. It's filled with this sense of expectation. It's similar to the mornings out here. You just never know what's going to happen, but you can almost feel the bush and the animals in it either tucking themselves in for a night where they have to try and avoid becoming somebody's late night snack, or you can feel the sense of anticipation of all the little critters that we never really get to see all that often up close and personal, getting ready to move out and about. It's times like these where most of the action goes down out in the bush, when it's a little bit cooler, and the nighttime predators have the advantage with their incredible night vision. And I always go to bed with that sense of expectation as to what we're going to find out has happened in the morning. Trees very carefully, and yes, absolutely, Vicky has said that the cicadas seem to drill into your brain, and they really do pick up on the sound so clearly at the moment. I haven't seen many of them around the house, which is quite a surprise to me, but they're definitely something that we're going to be seeing out and about regularly very soon. And the one thing about holding one of these spotlights, is that you just never know when you're going to get smacked in the face by an errant dung beetle. Oh, there you go, straight to the eyebrow. Missed the eye though. I've even had a black eye from one once. They fly full tilt towards your light and don't quite know where they're going. And we both wind up a little bit dazed and confused. I think it's time to be silent and just listen to the sounds of the evening, which includes Jigger's prop shaft making a very funny noise. Let's just stop and listen. We can hear the cicadas, and what a beautiful way to finish up a day. A big thank you must go out to Liam for all of his wonderful spotting this afternoon. He's been quite on the ball between that rock monitor and the little scrub hare hiding in the drainage line. And a big thank you to all of you, the viewers. I will catch up with you tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari. Have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening wherever you are in the world. See you tomorrow.
Welcome back, everybody. And the lioness up on the bank decided she was getting lonely and has come down to join her partner closer to the water's edge. I really wonder where they are going to head to from here, and hope that whatever they do, they reunite with other members of their pride. Ideally somewhere on Juma, but even if it's not on Juma and we get to hear the message over the radio waves tomorrow, that will be a relief in itself. So that's what I'm hoping for, as I'm sure a lot of you are also. And what a magical evening it's been, and day, here on Djuma and Arathusa. Looking forward to tomorrow's adventures already, and who knows what will be out there. The Birmingham boys are due a visit to us. It's been quite some time since we've seen them. And wouldn't it be nice if they're around roaring loudly for us in the morning to help start our chase for them. Well, sadly though, it is the end of this afternoon's safari, but it's been great having you, and thanks for all of your help, questions, contributions and support. I hope some of you phoned your friends when I asked you to a little bit earlier. Well done to Chandre on camera, and also to Nikki and Jess in the final control room. It's been another great day, and thanks again. Having one last look at the lion, and hopefully they'll do something before we go, but I don't think so. Anyway, goodbye.